For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble. Thanks for tuning in at thescribbleshow.com and on SoundCloud and iTunes. Over the Christmas break, and for me, Christmas break is really the month of December. It is. I have a bunch of time off, but being an entertainment reporter, sometimes there's stories that come up, and then I've got to jump in on the action, right? If there's a scandal, Kevin Hart offends everybody with homophobic tweets from back in the day, and, JB's got to jump in and start reporting on things. Well, in my hometown of Winnipeg, Manitoba, the legendary comedy duo Cheech and Chong were performing 2 shows one night. And so when I had the opportunity to meet them and talk with Tommy Chong before the show, I did. And so we had talked for about 25 minutes. We had recorded it. Our radio shows, we were broadcasting from Panama. Like everything was, for December, was locked in. So we're going to play you the Tommy Chong interview today, which has not been heard on the podcast or on the radio shows. We had to just fast track it to our celebrity interview website. So we lost, about 300,000 people that would listen to the radio show, and then all the people that would get the podcast, because as you know, in December, we were running that Panama content. So for the entire show today, you're going to hear me chatting with Tommy Chong. Now, this was taped, like I said, over a month ago at the beginning of December, and it was really fascinating because, as you know, he's one of the marijuana cannabis guys, right? So we talked with all that. We covered a lot of ground, so we're going to get into the Tommy Chong interview right after this.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
He's one half of the comedy duo Cheech and Chong, and they're performing tonight in my hometown of Winnipeg, Manitoba. A fellow Canadian, Tommy Chong, is joining us on the line. Hello there.
Hello there, eh?
Hey. Well, thanks for joining us, and welcome back to Canada. I should ask, how often are you in Canada?
Not often enough, but often enough. But, I like coming up here now because I come up here and collect a little bit of money, perform, and then go home back to L.A.
Right.
But Winnipeg was quite a shock getting off that plane. You're dressed for California, and next thing you know, it's chilly.
And the timing is perfect because officially the first real snowfall was just, I think, the day or two before. So you get there, perfect timing.
Yeah, it looked like when we were landing, I looked out and all you seen was white. It looked like, the great thing about the snow, it covers up all the imperfections of a place.
Right.
And so when you come into, it looked like winter wonderland. It was beautiful.
That's the thing, right? When you have the fall colors, it's great when the red and the orange and everything starts, but then once they're, brown and dead on the ground, yeah, you're right, the snow covers it up. It's good.
It's beautiful, beautiful. And then the sky is clear at night, and you can see the stars. Oh, it's gorgeous.
And we were just talking before we went on the air that, with Christmas coming, there's nothing like a nice snowy Christmas.
Oh, man. Yeah, my habit, the Amazon Alexa, that music, or Siri or Alexa.
Yeah, the one that's listening to everything we do.
I do Alexa, and I say, Alexa, play Silent Night, and then I name up all the different singers, and I just make my whole house sound like Christmas. Beautiful.
Oh yeah, we mentioned Canada, and I know I imagine you've been asked hundreds of times about this whole legalization thing, right? So, tell me what your thoughts are. Imagine you're happy that Canada is being a leader in the legalization of cannabis.
Well, I kind of take responsibility.
You should.
I'm a Canadian.
Yeah.
I'm a Canadian. I think I was the most famous for being busted for selling bongs in America. Mm-hmm. And I started my career in Calgary. And I smoked my first joint in 1957 in Calgary when it was legal because no one knew what it was. Mm-hmm. And so there was no marijuana alert out anywhere. And then, it became very highly illegal because it was a racist law right from the get-go. And so now that it became legal, and thank God Canada was the first, because it just shows you how innocent Canada is. And once it became legal, this company in Victoria flew me up on a private jet to Victoria to celebrate the legalization, and it's been just a blast ever since. And Canada has the stock market, because it's legal in the Canadian government, you can trade on the stock, and so all the people from the States are coming up to Canada and partaking in the stock market. So
right.
It's really mind-boggling. And the good or the bad news is that it'll probably shorten Cheech and Chong's career because we were totally based on pot being illegal.
Right. Now, we talk entertainment and pop culture on the show, and we don't really get political, but did you think that Canada would allow it nationally before the U.S.? Because when I was growing up, I always thought, hey, you know what, in the States, they're more progressive, they're more with the times. Canada is a little bit more reserved and uptight. Did you see us beating the States to the punch nationally?
Well, you got to remember, Canada is like one big state.
Right.
That's
true.
To the States.
Mm-hmm.
And in California, and there's all in Washington and Portland, we had medical marijuana back in 1988 in California, where you could get pot medically. And so we were ahead game there, because Jack Herrera, the pot activist that wrote "The Emperor Wears No Clothes,"
yeah.
Him and I, he called me up when it was medically illegal, and we got a medical big letter from the doctor Eidelman, Dr. Richard Eidelman, and then we took it to Kiko and had the letter shrunk into a card, and so Jack and I each had our own legal medical marijuana card. And when I got busted for bongs, I showed him my card, and of course the feds just laughed at me. But yeah, the thing is about Canada, being the government. I love the government. I mean, they got some kinks, some weird things going on. Like I said, they won't allow celebrity endorsements.
Right.
We're going to let that slide for a little while, and then I'm going to take them to court and find out, let the court decide why a Canadian boy like Tommy Chong can't promote his own pot,
Right.
Because that seems to violate some kind of Canadian freedom that I know I must have somewhere. But no, it's See, marijuana, the reason it's legal is because they found out it's a medicine. It's a very effective medicine. It's not just a they call it recreational in order to get the, so they can bypass the tax exemption that you get on medical, medicine. And so by calling it recreational, they can tax it like they tax beer or whiskey, alcohol. And that's the only reason. So because, I'm somewhat of a expert on marijuana because, I've been smoking it and studying it for so long. And it's been my observation that all marijuana use is medical because it calms the spirit, calms the mind. And that's what, in the Army, they have a thing called R&R, which is rest and recreation. And it's a medical term because when you're on the front lines and you need to rest and recreation, that's where marijuana falls right into that category.
There was a lot of concern that when legalization happened that all of a sudden people are going to start using it all the time, and there's all these educational campaigns and
yeah, that's so funny. That really cracks me up because you can't OD on marijuana. Believe me, I tried a few times. And what it does, like I said, if you take too much marijuana, you will go to sleep. It will put you in a coma, a healthy coma, by the way.
Right.
You see, medically speaking, here's what happens when you smoke pot. It calms the mind, and the way it does, it just puts you in the moment. You can't remember people's names. You can't remember what you're supposed to, where you're going at the time. You got to be careful when you're driving, because I know myself. Sometimes I'll smoke a joint and I'll go to drive to the store, and I'll get half a block, and I'll forget where I'm going. I'll say, "Where am I going?" And then I'll forget where I am. And so, what pot does, it puts you right in the moment. Mm-hmm. And if you're in the middle of making love to your girlfriend or your wife, it just makes that moment so much better. Or if you're in the middle of listening to some really good rap or pop or jazz music, then that music really speaks to you. Or if you're in the middle of writing something, then your comedy or whatever you're writing gets that much better. So it's such a positive substance that and it was legal forever. Mm-hmm. It was medicine forever. The Chinese had it listed as medicine 5,000 years ago. So what's happening? The world is really getting hip, catching up with the past, and it's a good thing.
Right, and I'm being told that we do need to say that the Manitoba government does not endorse people smoking or using marijuana and then getting behind the wheel. We need to say that as well. So
of course,
yeah,
of course, absolutely.
So let's just talk about
the only problem you get usually is that you might get a ticket for going too slow. So I, it's not like the same as alcohol, and that was the only beef I have against Canada, is because the Canadian straight people that don't know what the hell they're talking about, they think marijuana is like another beer or something. And it's not. It's totally different. It's a medicine that you should not operate heavy equipment. You should not do anything on that you're not used to doing. But for health purposes and for recreation and for sleeping, for medicine, for curing all sorts of ailments, I recommend it. And I also recommend that people ask me all the time, what should I smoke? I got this wrong, I got that wrong. And I tell everybody, you got a phone, use it. Google marijuana. Google it right now. Find out everything you can about it, and then go for it because everybody's different.
So I would say, then if somebody does ask you, so in full disclosure, I've never tried it. So if I were to come to you and say, where do I begin? You would tell me to Google it, or would you give me some advice? What could you tell me?
Well, yeah, for sure. I would say learn about it. Study it. Know what you're doing. Don't put stuff in your body that you don't know what's going to do to you.
Right.
I used to joke. I said the only drug I'd take is anything given to me by a naked lady. But that's just me. So what I would tell you is that maybe you're not ready for it. Because like I say, it will put you in the moment. Now, if you're in a good moment in your life, you're not fearful, because a lot of times people, they get they believe all the hype and the lies that they spread about marijuana, where it makes you want to kill your wife or something. It depends on who's smoking it. Now, if you're a serial killer, it'll probably give you some ideas how to kill better. But if you are like an artist, if you're an artist or a writer or a songwriter or a rapper for sure, that's how they get all those rhymes. If you ever listen to rap music, man, it's so intricate and it's so genius. It's poetry. It's pure poetry to music, and it has messages. It has all kinds of things that going on, and that is all marijuana induced. And so if you're a rapper, like you yourself, you asked me, well, if you never smoked it before, well, maybe you shouldn't, you know, because it's not on your menu. Yeah. So maybe you shouldn't. But if you are curious about it, well, then try it. Try a little bit. Try some CBD oil. That doesn't have THC, and so you can smoke a CBD joint and not get high, but it'll make you feel good, make you feel happy. Right. See, they used to call it wacky weed because it made you happy, it made you laugh. That's why Cheech and Chong we were so popular because we did our humor for the marijuana smokers. And so you get high listening to Cheech and Chong and laugh until you cried at the stupidest things. Right. And so it's it's wacky weed. It's happy weed. Yeah. And if you're afraid of that, if you're paranoid or schizophrenic or any of that, then I would say no, don't go near it. Don't touch it. But if you're normal and you want to try it, and like I say, if you got a female or a male, whoever your lover is, hey, that's a good time to start right there. Yeah. Remember Woody Allen's movie Annie Hall, I think it was? Yeah. Remember Annie Hall would only make love to Woody Allen when she'd have to smoke a joint. Right. It kind of made Woody feel weird. How come you have to get high to make love to me? and I wanted Annie Hall to say, have you looked in the mirror lately? But you just got to got to feel things out. It's like life, Yeah. Like not everybody wants to dive off the high board. Right. Yeah, and it's no different than people who just have no interest in alcohol, right? There's some people who have never had a sip in their life just because it's not of interest to them. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about the tour you guys are on, because you had split up 20 years or so, 25 years? Ago, yeah. Yeah. We split up in 84, and then we got back together again in 08, I guess it was. Yeah. Was it weird when you were able to pick up where you left off, like no time had passed back then? It was like riding a bicycle. Yeah. Like we were supposed to have a rehearsal, and we just looked at each other, kind of laughed, and said, "Okay, let's go do the job." And because it's all improv, and it just fell in. It was so easy. The only thing we had to do, thank God, is include my wife into the. We're like a trio now. Right. There's Cheech and Chong and Shelby, and I. We were together almost doing comedy for close to 20. Let's see, close to 20 years. And so then when Cheech and I got back together again, she had to be. It was mine. My call that Shelby had to be part of the show. Well, she's a big part of the show. She opens for us, and then she stays out there with us, and then she enables us to stay together. And like she goes out in between our acts, because before Cheech and I had to split up. He'd do a solo, I'd do a solo, and then we do one together, and then, we split up. But with Shelby, she comes out, kind of does a little bit in between while we're changing, and then so you get to see Cheech and Chong one bit after another until an hour and a half went by, and you've been totally entertained.
So I was going to ask what people can expect, because I think you're how old now? 80 years old?
80 years old.
And so is this still classic Cheech and Chong, even though you're 80 now?
Yeah, well, it's stoner 80.
Okay.
So I still, I stopped maturing when I turned 17, I believe.
All right.
And I've kept the same mindset ever since, because that's when I started smoking pot. And the minute I started smoking pot, I knew that there were great things ahead for me in my life. And I quit school. I had, I worked every kind of terrible job you could get. And in the meantime, I always played music. I've been playing music since I was 10. And so I always played, I always played for dances. I always played for money. And then pretty soon, I became a Motown musician. And then when I got fired from the band, I went back, and that's when I started Cheech and Chong. And I've always known, there was something inside me that told me that there was greatness awaiting for me, because I never once did anything just for the money. In fact, it was always for the people. And one time, in Calgary, for instance, our first band, when we formed our band, we needed a place to play, and so we formed a teen club. and because we had a chartered teen club, we could rent the halls, and we were protected by this teen club charter. Like, it wasn't a solo promoter promoting a gig. It was a bona fide teen club. And so we operated in Calgary for almost a year. And then because we were so popular, we would pack the Legion Hall on 9th Avenue in Calgary every Saturday night. But because of the liquor laws, we had to close at 12 midnight. And then there would be a couple of hundred crazy teenagers looking for something to do after the dance, and they would go to parties, and there'd be fights, and there would be all sorts of mischief going on. And so the mayor of Calgary, Don McKay at the time, called us in his office, and the chief of police was there, and the head of the Legion Hall were there, and they told us that we had to get out of town during the Christmas holidays. And so we said, all right. So we went to Vancouver, and we never came back. We just kept on trucking after that.
Well, you keep on trucking. So we said you're 80 years old. Most people have, long retired 10, 15 years earlier. Why are you still working? Why are you still doing this?
Well, you got to take a look at the show. It's just a fun show.
Yeah.
We have so much fun. You're making people laugh, and you're laughing yourself. And then I work with my wife, and she's so gorgeous that, I just watch her on stage. She's so beautiful, and she's so funny. And Cheech has always been, I love Cheech because I could, play tricks on Cheech on stage, and it's such a joy. And then the people love us, and then they know our records, they know our movies, and so it's just a love fest. It's like Woodstock every time we go on stage. And so that's what keeps me young.
Mm-hmm.
Again, my son now is a road manager, and he wasn't even born when Cheech and I started. Cheech and I got together in 68, 69, and then my son was born in 74. And now he's the road manager of the group, and he also writes bits for it. He's a writer as well, and he plays bass in the show too. So it's such a family affair. Kind of like Willie Nelson. When Willie goes out, he brings his whole family, and that's what I do. And so there's no reason to. It's not a job. It's a vocation.
Yeah, you're almost like you're playing is what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. And then when you go on the road, we stay in the nicest hotels. We got nothing to do all day except sleep and eat and work out. And then we go do the show, and then we sign autographs after the show. And then we usually go home or go to another gig, which we're going to do. And then we go home. And so we've had a weekend. We make a nice bundle, more money than I used to make in a year in one night.
Yeah.
And so there's no reason not to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Why not? And, we're super late, and we should have left, 15 minutes ago. But one more thing, you were talking about your son and how it's, Up in Smoke was, 40 years ago. That was a huge hit with adults at the time. But then even teenagers, I was a teenager in the 90s. It was a cultural phenomenon for people like me. Did you expect that to span generations?
Not really. No. We had no expectations. When you're doing a movie, you're halfway through the movie, you start thinking about the other movie, the next movie you're going to do. So we had no idea what Up in Smoke how it was going to affect the world, but it did. It did. It still is. It foreshadowed everything that's going on right now. And not only Up in Smoke, but Nice Dreams, next movie, all the other movies that came after it. Like in next movie, we kind of foreshadowed this. In next movie, I said, I'm going to get a job rolling joints one day. That's going to be my job. And that there are people now in Canada and in the States and in Germany, that's their job, rolling joints. That's they do all day. So we were like, we were the prophets. We were the ones the groundbreakers, and we still are. We haven't stopped. We're still doing it.
That's got to be a good feeling. Like, again, not to harp on the 80-year-old thing, but 80 years old and still having people in their 20s looking up to you as being an icon.
Even younger.
Yeah.
I was on Dancing with the Stars in 2014, and I was going. We were in a mall somewhere, and these young girls, they must have been 10 years old with their parents, and they saw me and they screamed, and their mother came over and said, "Oh, they're your biggest fans. They follow you on Dancing with the Stars," and and I just had a laugh, man. I never had 10-year-old fans before, and there they are. Oh, no, my life has been blessed, and it still is being blessed. And if you get a chance to see the show, I know it's going to be tonight, but if you get a chance, come on down, man. You're going to have a good time.
Well, there we go, everybody. Actually, my understanding is sold out, so I'm not sure. I'll have to check on that. But
you'll come down. We'll definitely find a place for you.
Okay, all right. We'll touch base after our chat here. But so the rest of the tour dates are on your website, right?
That's right. Yeah, everything's on the website. I don't even know where I'm going next.
Okay, we can give the website address, though. I think it's cheechandchong.com.
That's it.
All right.
That's it.
All right. Well, we'll be sure to get everybody to check that out. And I'll see you tonight then, I guess, Tommy. I'll hold you to that.
Okay. No, you and the guest.
All right. Will do. Well, Tommy, welcome back to Canada. Thanks for joining us today, Tommy. Appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
We're out of time. My name is Jeremy Bradley. This is The Scribble. Talk to you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.
If you want some real heat